You can see a difference. I mean, I got some of that in here, and I'm just going to quickly go through this. And so we've been looking at, I guess we found it first in 2015, and then since then we did a lot of greenhouse work. Honestly, we don't have enough greenhouse space right now for what we have in paper bags to look at and screen, but it started for us back in 2015. And this is the hotbed area for PPO resistance. We got 2 counties there that aren't shaded yet. But I know it's there. It's just that we haven't found it there officially, and it actually looks like they're in the wrong spot, but I can't see from this angle. But anyway, northeast Arkansas is the hotbed, especially Creighton and Mississippi County where Chuck works. Mike, I don't know why we don't have as much pigweed problem in southeast Arkansas. We have it, but I mean, it's not that we can't find it, but for some reason that environment, it doesn't flourish as good there or down further south into Louisiana as it does in northeast Arkansas and West Tennessee.
I've got spots in North Louisiana that's bad.
That's bad, yeah, and there's spots in South Arkansas that's bad, but every spot's bad almost in Mississippi and Crittenden County. I mean, and so Chuck mentioned metabolic resistance a little bit. So in the Midwest, there's tall water hemp. That's a Palmer amaranth species. It became resistant to PPO chemistry before our Palmer amaranth did, okay? And so they found gene mutations, gene deletions, and substitutions that cause that resistance. So it's genetic. It's like a mutation. And so that is the target site resistance, the little black cross looking font there. So all these populations that have been tested, we have a postdoc at Fayetteville looking at this, and he's found those that target site resistance. Now the blue ones don't have the target site resistant genes. However, they're resistant to the 2x rate of Flexstar, more or less. And so this is what Chuck was talking about, maybe more of a metabolic response, and he's actually done some work. And this is way over my head, so if we get too deep in this, I'm not going to be able to answer the questions. But basically, there's some things that can increase the cytochrome P450s in a plant that increase that metabolism or potential to metabolize these PPOs. So malathion is one of those. And so he's got some work where he took a PPO-resistant population, added malathion to the Flexstar, and actually ended up killing some of those more of those pigweeds than without it. And so that goes back to confirm that we have some type of metabolic resistance going on in some of these populations. Now, that's about all I'm going to say about that because it's very preliminary in the work. He's going to be that's his project as a postdoc. So just to show you, there's several different things going on with these, and basically that tells you the difference. I've already gone through that. Okay, this is a population that we're working with on one of Chuck's growers. It's resistant to ALS chemistry, the yellow herbicides, the DNAs, the glyphosate, and then PPO. Okay, so we got 4-way resistance in that population. Flexstar didn't really turn any turnip color, just a little bronzing in the top there. It grows out of it quick. In 2016, we did work pre-emerge because we didn't really know the kind of activity we were going to get. Valor's the bottom right-hand side there. So that just shows you a little data from 2016. I'm going to show you some from 2017 now. So this is there at Marion. Untreated check, and when I show these at various meetings, it's like, man, what was y'all seeding rate of that pigweed out there? Man, that's a thick mat of pigweed. Yeah, that's a natural population of pigweed. And it's good when you go do an on-farm location, and Mark told me, he said, oh yeah, you can go on Google Earth. I had to disc that field up last year, couldn't even harvest it. You see Google Earth and the front half of it's completely disced up, you're in a good pigweed hole for doing research. So he's been real good to let us work. Chuck set that up for us, and it's been really good from a research standpoint. We've got a lot of valuable data off of that. But Reflex at 16 ounces, you have talking about Cotteran and Diuron in front of cotton. Reflex was my #1 product in front of cotton, and 6 weeks residual. I got tons of data that says I can get 6 weeks with a pint of Reflex. Yeah, not anymore. And so you can see though, if you're a farmer in that area, there's going to be a segment of that population that's not PPO resistant. You're going to control some of it, but that's going to be a failure at the end of the day. And this is 28 days out. So dicamba on the left, XtendiMax, again, that's at the half-pound rate. It's not a, we spray these in front of a rain. Chuck will tell you, we try to get out there since it's a non-irrigated field, spray it ahead of a rain to get activation. Dicamba, once it gets moisture, it starts breaking down, and so you're not going to get the residual activity, especially out to 28 days. Zidua, again, Chuck mentioned we're working Zidua to death, and well, there's one reason for that, because right now it looks like one of the better products from a residual standpoint on PPO resistance. Now, the 2.5 ounce rate is critical. I can't tell you the number of fields I walked last year that were sprayed at 1.5 ounces. And in 14 days, they were a grown-up mess, okay? And so, to me, I don't even want to talk Zidua unless I'm putting it at 2 ounces. And if I'm in Crittenden County, Arkansas, Chuck, I want 2.5, and nobody wants to pay for 2.5 ounces. But it's that good at that rate. And so you don't want to do it by itself. This is just showing you what individual products can do. But you see, is there pigweed in that plot? Yep. All right. Prowl, I've already mentioned it's kind of done on that population. Dual at a pint. Yeah, we got some activity out of Dual. This was a lot better than last year's activity. or 16's activity. I'll show you that here in a minute. But again, still pigweed out there. Balance, this is coming with the new HPPD beans, and just to show you kind of what's available in the future. Again, one of the cleaner plots, so there's that's my positive note, so don't say I didn't say a positive note. There's some other help coming. And then there's MGI beans, so that would be Callisto, I guess, instead of Balance, but they both look decent pre-emerge. 1/2 pound of metribuzin by itself. Is there still pigweed in that plot? Yep. Okay, it's not as bad as untreated. It's not as bad as just PPO by itself, but yeah, nothing's 100%, and there's the data to show that. And this is again 17 data. Actually, if I pooled this data over 16, it'd look a lot worse than this. So 17, we got a lot more moisture than we did in 16 at that location, and it's a dry land location. So, but of the PPOs, even though it didn't separate statistically, Valor's probably still giving us the most residual activity out of that population there in the field. Again, 60% obviously didn't cut it, but then you can see the Dual, Warrant, Ziduas, Balance, and then Prowl again's down here. And these are colored just because of these are all PPOs, and that one is also resistant, we found, in metribuzin. So I can skip right now to the conclusion. Y'all can imagine what we're going to recommend on soybean acres in PPO areas, right? I mean, that's no big secret. I wanted to show you some product mixtures, and this is 2016 data. This is over 10 trials that we conducted in Crittenden County and Woodruff County. And again, these are mixtures that you get from various companies. Some of them are single products. The point is, these are box and whisker plots, all right? The bigger that box is, the more variability across all 10 of those locations, and that's 40 reps, okay? So the more variability there is across those 40 reps. All right, so still a lot of variability in most of these products, less than 75% control there. Again, once we get down to where we have a lot of the group 5, group 15, so group 5 is metribuzin, group 15 is the duals, warrants, Ziduas. Once you start combining those in with these products, it's a lot better than the product by itself, okay? We're getting a little help from Valor, for example, or Authority, the sulfentrazone, even though we have some resistance out there. We're still getting a little help from some of that population.
What's the elite component in Authority?
A dual.
Dual.
Yeah. And so you just get on through there, and this was our top one for the last 2 years. It's been our top, and it was our top in 2017 too. But Chuck's walked those plots with me. Several of you in the room have walked those plots, and it was pretty easy to tell. Any of these products right here look good, and we added dual to that one. But once you start adding Zidua to these products, they start looking a lot better. And so I agree with Chuck. We don't want to overuse Zidua, but for some reason at that location, and at Jason's and at Bob's, it has provided better control over the last 2 years. Okay. When you look at post programs, and this is really not a good comparison, again, this is 2016, and these posts were sprayed at 28 days, which is way too long for what we had because the weeds were too big, okay? But they were all pretty comparable. This is just the top 8 of those pre-emerge programs we saw in the previous chart. You know, and just some pictures I'm gonna go through. There's one untreated check. Here's Dual in 2016. You see that this is at 28 days. Dual looked like a miss in 2016 and it scared us to death. Okay. This year in 2017, I keep saying this year because I'm still stuck in 17, I guess, but in 2017 it looked a lot better. But I don't care what post technology you have, if you're battling that kind of population, it's going to be tough to clean it up with what we have. Now, prior to Roundup resistance, Roundup killed the bigger pigweeds. I mean, it did. It was the best thing I ever saw on pigweed prior to resistance. So, but with the technologies we're using now, it's hard to clean up a mess
How many days
like that.
after application is that?
Oh, probably 14 after the second. All right, but if you start, this is in a Liberty program, this is 16, you start with a broad spectrum residual, you can clean it up. And you got 3 effective modes of action. Here's an example where we started with Valor, and we just sprayed these 2 rows with Ingenia twice. And you can see what Valor let through. But still, at 28 days, you're dealing with a population that's too big. It did pretty good a job cleaning it up. But you've got some that are escaping, and these are wide rows, and that's the other thing I'd mention is, you know, narrowing these rows is a good thing too. But products that worked and looked good, Boundary, Travents, and Zidua, come back with any of these technologies, and it cleaned them up pretty good. And again, this is one of our best plots at Marion, 2 applications in an Extend system in wide rows. You know, obviously I'd love to have canopy by this time right here. But it's dry land, and so that hurt us a little bit on the canopy deal. But anyway, it can work. What about 17? We went and purposely we set out a programs trial where we said, well, just Valor, because that's going to it's going to kill some, but allow some pigweed through, the PPO-resistant ones. Plus, I'd call this a medium rate of Boundary. Ever since my 2016 data, we recommend 2 pints if you're going Boundary. And then that best treatments, which was the Metribuzin, Verdict, and Zidua. And then in all the technologies with Roundup Prefix, Liberty followed by Liberty, the Enlist, and then the Ingenia program. And so when you just break down, it did what we thought. We got about, not quite 50% control. Half the population we got with Valor, the rest was let through. Boundary increased it somewhat. Metribuzin and Zidua and Verdict, again, was our best. And these are just going through, you can see better than I can tell you. But this is the population that Valor let through at 2 ounces. It's 28 days. Boundary, still some pigweeds out there, but you know, cleaned it up a little better. Our number 1 treatment from a pre-emerge in this test, again, but can y'all tell the difference in height, the beans there versus here? So that's the other thing that can happen when you start overloading these residuals up front, especially on wide rows. You're 2 extra weeks prior to canopy, and that's 2 extra weeks fighting PPO-resistant pigweed. And so it's great that I can sit here and load up all these residuals. And matter of fact, that's in my conclusion slide, load up residuals. But the problem is there can be some negative impacts from that, depending on the year and how much rain you get. So,
Tom, are you seeing varietal responses to that?
Great question, yes. And so I don't have enough data in front of me, but I can tell you we're currently screening varieties for PPO tolerance. And
so you feel like it's the PPO bringing that down in the verdict there?
well, not by itself, because it turns out this one was a little more sensitive to Metribuzin than I thought. But it was also wetter than normal at this location, and so that gives you more injury too. Okay, and the rains caught it at the wrong time. With the sharpen in that Verdict, if the rain catches it when it's pushing through, you're going to get some injury. And it's the same way with Valor too. But I mean, again, Valor's here, and that's the same variety. It's just a little harder on it when you mix all that stuff together.
What's your soil type there, Tom?
It says silt loam, but it's hard for me to believe it's a silt loam because it's got a lot of sand mixed in it, Chuck. But it came back from analysis as more as a silt loam than a sandy loam.
So your 6 ounce
It's
ring
got
with
that
all
very-
that sand in it.
I think it was a little, but I think the wetness had a lot to do with it too.
That's a
Yeah,
big factor.
yeah. But that's another thing. We do have a website that shows the metribuzin tolerant lines, and not everybody enters their bean lines. But it is a good resource to use because we're going to have to incorporate metribuzin in these areas. I mean, we just don't have an option. The good news is, because it was wetter, I saw better control with all of our post products this year than I did, or 2017 than I did 2016. The other thing is, I sprayed these at 21 days. So weeds were all smaller, okay? And so what this is telling you, this dark colored bars, the Roundup Ready system, where all we have is Prefix or Flex Star, post-emergence, and then all these are the new technologies, and really it's a crapshoot. I was surprised at this one, but again, we backed it up at 21 days. If we'd have kept it 28, these would have probably looked a lot lower than these two, just because we had more pigweed, more time to grow, larger pigweed there. So. Regardless of the system, we can do a good job, but timeliness is key. Like Chuck said, moisture is key. I can't make it rain. I wish I could, but there's a chance that you spend a lot of money on residuals and they won't get activated. Okay, and again, I don't know, are we done with this session yet? What time is it? Just going to quickly go through these pictures here. And it just kind of shows you Valor by itself, no post on the left, the posts are on the right. That's the Endless Duo program, Extend program, Liberty program. So, I mean, even though it's a pigweed nightmare in that field, we can still do a good job cleaning it up. But there's so many factors that have to come together that I can do on small plots that growers will have a hard time do over tens of thousands of acres, 10,000 acres, whatever. And it goes back to timeliness and working around the weather. So to wrap it all up, do we still get some activity out of our PPOs? Yes, but we can't count on it. I mean, you cannot just go with that by itself in an area with PPO resistance. If we're going to try the Extend and not spray dicamba, which that's going to be, I mean, at some point pigweeds are coming up. And we're either going to pull them or illegally spray them, I guess. I don't know. But if we're going to try to overlap, you can't let 14 days go before putting out another residual. And that's going to be hard to do, and it's going to be expensive. And if you don't plant narrow rows, you're going to be doing this for 2 months, maybe. Single mode of actions don't work. One, we got a decrease in activity. And the pigweeds are going to be harder to kill, especially at 28 days. 21, no more than 21 days on any post should we be going past 21.
Planting.
That's after planting, yeah. Yeah. Chuck mentioned these. Crop rotation, corn and rice seem to be the best for us in Arkansas. Not everybody can do that, but that's the best for us. I hear what he's saying about the zero tolerance, and I agree. You can have the cleanest farm, never had a pigweed problem. You get a flood, you get a bunch of geese, you put out some cover crop seed that has pigweed in it, and all of a sudden you got a pigweed problem, right? And so, but I think it's a mindset of if I have that and I see those, I do what I can to get them out of there before they come and make a seed head. Cover crops have been a big deal for us, and not everybody wants to do it, and everybody now is wanting to do blends, but cereal rye, it's simple, it's easy to kill at planting, it provides a good biomass layer, and it helps me with pigweed control. Anything I have in that blend other than cereal rye, to me, just takes up a spot that you're not going to have as much biomass. Reduce the row spacing. Somebody mentioned planting earlier, and that was good because I forgot to put it on this slide. But thanks for bringing that out. The moldboard plow, deep tillage, rotating out. In Australia, that's a main practice where they have so much resistance. They don't do every field every year, but they rotate their fields and do some deep tillage here and there. The narrow windrow burning, unless they put a kibosh on all our burning in Arkansas, which I'm afraid they might do, can work. and cleaning equipment. But again, these are all things that can be done. Does it mean you won't have a pigweed problem? No, unfortunately. Upper end of herbicide rates. And this is our recommendations, and really it's not going to be any different than it was last year. I mean, we recommend gramoxone at planting plus 2 residuals that are effective. And by effective, I mean residuals that currently aren't found to have resistance to in those pigweed populations. And not everybody can probably put out metribuzin, but we need to get it out there and plan on using it more in the future. The other thing on the narrow rows, you know, you have to get really lucky not to need 2 post-emergence applications in season of one of these technologies. Everything has to line up right, and you get good residual activity and use the right rates to not need 2 applications. But planting in narrower rows can get you to canopy quicker, right? Hopefully. So anyway, I know I'm out of time. Any questions or discussion?
You got a substitute for gramoxone on places where we can't get it out because of surrounding crops?
Sure. I mean, you can use, I mean, it depending on what you're planting.
Soybeans.
Well, I mean, the technologies. So if you're planting the Extend and
Well, Liberty
or Liberty or whatever, the thing about Liberty is it's got to be warm. And so if it's still 60-degree highs, Liberty's not going to work as good as if it was highs in the 80s or something like that.
3 shots of Liberty out all year.
Get the hoods up.
Yeah, gramoxone really fits the best. Now, in an Extend system, assuming it's prior to April 15th, I guess, in our state, or whatever date they decide it's going to be, and it's legal to spray, that can work. And you can use a higher rate of the dicamba product at that time. And so that can work pretty decent. The 2,4-D and the 2,4-D system can work.
Most of my guys have gone to pulse systems, Capstan, or aim command systems on their spray rigs. We'll spray turn row to turn row with gramoxone.
Yeah, and that's been a general recommendation for us in Northeast Arkansas. It doesn't matter if it's, especially in beans and cotton. I mean, we're putting gramoxone in or paraquat in at planting with whatever residual.
The problem I run into is after all the controversy over Extend, and I rely on custom applicators, we don't have enough labor not to. Custom applicators don't want to go out there and spray something that's going to speckle up the neighbors.
I agree. Oh, I know. And I walk a lot of fields that get speckled up.
And usually it doesn't harm, but I can understand their
Sure.
reluctance.
And I know. And that's the unfortunate thing is that's the world we're living in right now. I mean, when you talk about things that kill a pigweed post-emergence, gramoxone, the Enlist, the 2,4-D, Liberty, and dicamba, atrazine, but I can't put that in beans or cotton.
That's a trio.
Yeah, but that's coming. But it's not as good post as it is pre, I'd argue. I mean, the things that I can kill pigweed with right here, and at least a PPO-resistant.
Hey, Tom, question. How long will the pigweed seed remain viable if you did kill it under 8 inches or more? How long will it remain viable?
Great, yeah. What the data says is 3 years to 4 years. If you can keep it buried, or if you can go into a program where you remove them all and you don't have a flood or something, bring them on, and you're just controlling your seed bank, after 3 years, you'll see a big difference. The guys that did the burning last year tell me after 1 year of burning, they saw a big difference. Now, I don't know, but usually it takes 2 to 3 years reducing that seed bank to tell a great big difference. Yeah. All right, thank y'all. Don't forget to sign the sheet.